Hi, in this video I'm going to check whether the core sound of a VSTi bass can really sound like a real bass. So let's go. Well, the reason for this video is that I recently upgraded to Komplete 14 by Native Instruments. And as part of that package I got a new bass guitar called Session Bassist Prime Bass. And I was wondering for myself, how well does it compare to some of the other bass VSTi's that I tested earlier? And most of all, how well does it compare to my real bass guitar? So let's try to find that out. First of all, this is the new bass VSTi that I tried. I think it has been out for well over a year by now, but it's the first time that I've tried it. And as you can see, it's on sale. And if you still want to buy or upgrade any of your Komplete stuff, I think their Summer of Sound sale still lasts until July 6th. So be quick about it. But the Prime Bass is authentic, playable, essential low-end tone of an iconic single-coil electric bass guitar. They don't say it, but it's a Fender Precision guitar. And it contains patterns and phrases across a range of genres, but you're also able to craft your own bass lines and solo melodies. So let's see what it looks like in Cubase. And as you can see over here, I have now loaded it up in Complete Control. So you get the nice colors on my Complete Control keyboard as well. And it's now loaded in pattern mode, which basically means that you can have patterns here which are based on any of the blue notes that you play. And you can change patterns by using the notes that are in front of these patterns over here. And they are actually the same as the notes on the red keys over here. Now you can also see that there's a purple key and a green key. And if you push this little keyboard icon over here, you can see what they mean. Like the red keys, yeah, it's basically to switch the various patterns. The purple keys give you a couple of different endings. And the green key gives you an atonal slide. So let's see how these classic rocker patterns sound. So those are some of the patterns as well as some endings and the atonal slide. Now if you go over here, you can change some of the songs. Basically, this means changing the patterns that are loaded. So you can filter on musical style. You can filter whether they're played with slap style or with a plectrum or with fingers. And you can also filter on the time signature or the rhythm that is used. For example, going to funk, you can load up funk fingers. Let's listen to some of these patterns. Yeah, the patterns for E1 to G1 are empty, but if you want to, you could also load up a pattern there. You can also change the sound of the bass with these controls over here. You have DI signal, mic 1 and mic 2, and you can, for example, drive it extra, change the volume on the different mic signals, increase or decrease the damping, the amount of noise, which is basically the fret noise. And you can add some tuning variances. Now there's also amps and effects that you can add to the whole processing chain. And on the playback tab, you can actually set humanize. Original is that the pattern is actually played as it was recorded. Quantized means that it's very straight on the beat. You can add some swing to the patterns. You can emphasize the downbeat or the offbeat of the pattern. And you can even slightly vary the timing to play just ahead or in front of the beat like the song requires. You can go to halftime or double time. The pattern is now synced to host. And this basically determines how quickly the pattern stops after you release one of the blue keys. Now currently this virtual instrument is loaded in pattern mode, so you can play the patterns. But it's also possible, if I enable the browser here for a second, to load it in melody mode. And that means that you still have patterns here on the right side, which can be triggered by, again, the red keys on your keyboard. But at the same time, you can also play your own bass notes when you trigger one of the melody options. And you can play open notes, muted notes, flageolets, or slap and pop notes, either with plectrum or finger, and either in mono or be able to play multiple notes at the same time. So let's have a quick listen to the difference between patterns and playing melody notes. yeah, those are some quick examples. Now this video is not to dive into all details of prime bass. If you want that, then let me know. But this video is really about comparing the core DI sound of this virtual instrument to some of the other virtual instruments that I tested earlier, as well as my real bass playing. But before I do that, if you like this video already or find it useful, please give it a thumbs up for the YouTube algorithm so that it gets shown to more people. Subscribe to the channel and ring the little bell icon if you want to get notified when I publish another video. And if you really appreciate these videos, you can always use the super thanks button below the video, or if you plan to buy any musical gear in one of these stores, you can use the affiliate links in the description and I'll get a small commission without any cost to you. Now back to comparing the bass VSTi's. Now in this Cubase project I have 4 bass tracks. One is the bass DI from my own Fender P-Bass, which is a Mexican road-worn version, and it's recorded through the A-Designs Red DI into the Pacifica. Next up is the Wedgeforce Keyman, which is a bass VSTi from Plugin Alliance. Next up is the Easy Bass virtual instrument from TuneTrack. And then last but not least is the Session Bassist by Native Instruments, but then played in melody mode. So I'm not actually using any of the patterns, I'm just using it in melody mode, using the open articulation. If I open Contact here, you can still see that. Open articulation. I've removed all amps and effects. So what we're really comparing is the bass DI sound, which is also what I'm getting from all the other VSTi's as well as from my own bass. And the reason I'm comparing the DI sound and not any process sound is because the processing usually covers up the differences. And I'm really interested this time in comparing the core sound of these VSTi's to the core sound of my bass. Yeah, so these are the bass settings that I'm using for the comparison, which made it sound most like my real bass. And these were the playback settings. Full humanization, a little bit of swing, feel in the middle, and no shift in timing. So let's have a listen. First the bass without anything else, and later on I will add a drum groove. So let's now add a drum groove to see how they sound together with drums. So, what do you think? Which one do you like best? And if you prefer the real bass, which VSTi do you like best? Let me know in the comments what your observations are. So for me, I noticed that the real bass has a lot more low end, and maybe in that it's not so mix ready yet. The other sounds are much more tailored to be heard in the mix. Another difference that I noticed is that the Keyman sounds most like my real bass actually, but it's a bit artificial. You can really hear that it's a VSTi and that it's not real bass playing. Easy Bass has more extra added sounds like fret noise for example, which makes it sound more like a real bass. But it has a bit of a different character, and that's also because this is an emulation of a jazz bass, whereas all the other 3 ones, including the real bass, are a P bass. So there's bound to be a bit of a difference in sound there. Now the prime bass, I really like the sound. You can hear some popping and fret noise, which really makes it sound very close to a real bass to me. It's played much tighter than what I'm playing, so maybe that gives away a bit of the difference as well. And yeah, I think it has a pretty gnarly P-bass sound, which is pretty characteristic. So I quite like it as a P-bass emulation. Now, if you couldn't hear the difference very well on YouTube, I also provided these tracks to download below so you can listen to them in your own DAW and turn it up and really listen to the differences. And when you do, please let me know in the comments how you feel about these bass VSTi's compared to a real bass. Now, if your played bass parts also need some tightening up, like mine do, then I have a separate video about how to do that, how to tighten a bass track, linked right over here. Have a look, check it out, and see you soon.